Behind an Amish farmhouse in Holmes County, Ohio, there's a small wooden building, no bigger than a garden shed, blackened on the inside by a century of wood smoke. There are no wires running to it. There is no compressor, no cooling coil, no power of any kind. And hanging from the rafters inside, in the dead of winter, is enough cured meat to feed a large family until the spring. Hams, sides of bacon, sausages, all of it kept safe and good without a freezer, without a refrigerator, without a single watt of electricity. This little building is called a smokehouse, and the method that fills it has kept meat through the winter for thousands of years. After my video on keeping vegetables in a root cellar, the question came flooding in, what about meat? What did people do before the freezer? And what happens to a freezer full of food the day the power goes out and stays out? So I went back to Holmes County to find the answer, and it is sitting in that little smoke-stained building in a method so old and so reliable that it fed entire civilizations long before anyone knew what a refrigerator was. Now, I have to be honest and careful with you right at the start, because this subject deserves real respect. Preserving meat is not like whitewashing a roof. Done right, it is one of the safest and oldest forms of food storage on Earth. Done wrong, it can make a person seriously ill. So what I am going to give you today is the true history, the real science of why it works, and the principles behind it. And then I am going to point you to the trustworthy sources you must follow if you ever want to do it yourself. I am not going to hand you a recipe with numbers, because with meat, the wrong numbers are dangerous, and your safety matters more than a tidy video. If you are the kind of person who believes practical knowledge gets quietly pushed aside to protect somebody's profit, then you already know what to do. Subscribe. Because there is more of this every single week. Here is the idea the whole thing rests on, and it has two parts that work together. The first part, and the most important by far, is salt. Long before anyone understood bacteria, people learned that meat packed in salt did not rot. We know why now. Salt pulls the water out of the meat, and it pulls the water out of any bacteria trying to grow on it. Those bacteria need available water to live, and salt takes it away, leaving behind an environment where the things that spoil meat and the things that make us sick simply cannot survive. This is the foundation of every cured ham and every slab of bacon ever made. Salt first, always salt first. The second part is the smoke, and this is where the smokehouse comes in. Once the meat has been properly cured with salt, it is hung in that small building, and a low, cool, smoky fire is kept smoldering for hours or days. The smoke does several things at once. It dries the surface of the meat further, and it coats it with natural compounds from the wood that slow spoilage and keep insects in the air from getting at it. For thousands of years, the combination of those two steps, the salt cure and then the smoke, is what carried families through every winter. Food scientists today have a name for this. They call it hurdle technology, the idea that you put up several small barriers against spoilage, the salt, the drying, the smoke, and no single bacterium can clear all of them at once. The old smokehouse was hurdle technology centuries before anyone wrote the term down, and this was never one people's secret. Every civilization that faced a hard winter or a long voyage arrived at the same answer. The hams of southern Europe, dry cured and aged for a year or more, are this method. The salt cod that fed sailors across whole oceans is this method. The dried and smoked fish of the far north, the cured sausages of the old countries, the country hams of the American South, all of it is salt and smoke and patience. The Amish who came from Germany and Switzerland carried their own version with them. The hams and the smoked sausages their families had always made, and they kept making them here exactly as before, through every winter, while the rest of the country slowly forgot how. It was not a quaint tradition to them. It was how a family made sure there was meat on the table in February, and it never once failed them. Quick question before we go on, and I genuinely want to know. Did your parents or grandparents ever cure their own ham, smoke their own bacon, or make their own sausage? And do you still have the taste of it in your memory? Drop a comment with your state and tell me. I read every single one, and these family food memories are exactly what I am after. And if you have made it this far, subscribe, because what comes next is the part the appliance industry would much rather you never put together. Now, back to it. So if salt and smoke kept meat safe for thousands of years, why did the smokehouse vanish from nearly every American home? You already know the shape of the answer. When the electric freezer arrived in the middle of the 20th century, it was a marvel, and like the refrigerator, nobody is telling you to throw yours out. But it quietly changed something. It made families forget a skill they had carried for generations, and it tied a winter's worth of meat to an unbroken supply of electricity. As long as the power flows, the freezer is wonderful. The trouble is the day it stops. A full freezer that loses power can turn into a freezer full of spoiled meat in a couple of days, and every year, after a big storm, that is exactly what happens to thousands of families. The smokehouse never had that weakness. Cured meat hanging in a cool room does not care whether the grid is up or down. And from the point of view of the industries that sell freezers and the power to run them, a method that needs neither is not progress. It is a lost sale. So the smokehouse was not banned. It simply stopped being built, stopped being taught, until a skill nearly every rural family once had faded into something most people have only tasted, never made. The Amish kept it the way they keep everything, because they never handed their food security to a wire coming in from the road. And the proof that it works is sitting in butcher shops and smokehouses around the world. Nearly every cured meat you have ever eaten, every country ham, every strip of real bacon, every dry sausage exists because of this exact science. It is not fringe. It is the foundation of how humanity ate meat for most of our history, and it is still done commercially every single day under careful food safety rules. That last part is the key, and it brings me to the part I promised you. Now here is the part built specifically for you, and it is as much a warning as it is an invitation, because I want you safe. If this calls to you, if you want to cure and smoke your own meat the way your great-grandparents did, it can be one of the most rewarding things you ever learn. But you must learn it correctly, from the right sources, and here is why I will not just rattle off a recipe. The single greatest danger in curing meat is a bacterium that causes botulism, a rare but potentially deadly poisoning. It grows in exactly the low oxygen, low acid conditions that cured meat can create, and you cannot see it, smell it, or taste it. This is the reason proper curing uses precise amounts of curing salts, the pink-colored salts that contain nitrite in carefully measured quantities, to stop that organism from ever taking hold. Too little and you are unprotected. Too much, and the cure itself becomes harmful. The amounts matter, the temperatures matter, the timing matters, and they are not things to guess at from memory or from a stranger on the internet. So here is what I will tell you to do, plainly. If you want to learn this, go to the trustworthy sources. The National Center for Home Food Preservation, your state university extension office, and the United States Department of Agriculture all publish tested, safe, step-by-step curing and smoking guides, free, written by food scientists whose entire job is making sure you do not get sick. Read them. Follow them exactly. Get yourself a good thermometer and the proper curing salts, and do not improvise on the safety steps, ever. The flavor is yours to play with. The safety numbers are not. Do it that way, and you join an unbroken chain of people who have fed their families this way for thousands of years. Oh, and let me be honest about what this is and is not, because I will not oversell it to you. This is not a way to keep a fresh steak in your kitchen for next Tuesday. It is something different and, in its own way, bigger. It is the ability to take a large amount of meat. At the time of year, it is plentiful and cheap, and turn it into food that will keep for months without any power at all. That is what a family did when they raised or bought a hog in the fall. They did not need a freezer the size of a closet running all winter on the grid. They cured it, they smoked it, and they hung it in a cool building, and it fed them clear through to spring. For a homestead, for anyone serious about being able to feed their family when the power is not guaranteed, that is a profound kind of security. It also makes food that, frankly, tastes better than almost anything you can buy, because the cure and the smoke do to flavor what they do to preservation. The country ham, the real bacon, the aged sausage, these are not just survival food. They are some of the finest eating there is, and they are the direct result of a method the modern kitchen quietly abandoned. Everything I have covered about the old Amish way of keeping a home and a pantry I have put together in one place in the description if you want it. But stay right here, because the ending is the part that matters. And now the piece I held back, the thing that stayed with me long after I left that little smoke-stained building. The Amish man who showed me his smokehouse told me it was built by his grandfather, and that the same hooks in the rafters have held his family's hams every winter for as long as anyone can remember. He learned the cure from his father, who learned it from his, each generation passing down not just the method, but the care, the respect for doing it right, because they understood that a family's winter depended on it. He took down a ham that had hung since the fall, ran his thumb along the firm, cured surface, and said the thing I keep coming back to. He said, "The English think meat must live in a machine. We have always known that salt and smoke and patience will keep it the way they kept it for our grandfathers. That is the whole thing, right there. The salt was always cheap. The smoke was always free. The way to carry meat safely through a winter was worked out over thousands of years and proven across every culture on Earth. And then it was quietly traded for a humming box and the wire that feeds it. But salt does not fail in a storm, and a smokehouse does not go dark. The knowledge was never lost. You were just never given it. And now you know where to find it. So tell me. Drop your state in the comments and tell me whether anyone in your family ever cured a ham or smoked their own meat, and what it tasted like. And if your grandfather kept a smokehouse or your grandmother had a cure she swore by, I want to hear about it, because that meat and this method are the very same science, just under a different name. I read every single one. Hit subscribe, because next week I'm going to show you how the Amish make free hot water with nothing but the sun, a system they have used for over 100 years that quietly does the job of the single most expensive appliance running in your house right now. The reason it works is a story you are going to want to hear.